All right. Welcome back to Brother from Another. We're joined by our good friend, Mr. Vinnie Goodwill, NBA senior writer for Yahoo Sports. And Vinnie, we just heard it from 76ers head coach Doc Rivers. He said, no need to debate, no need to talk anymore. It's over. Joel Embiid just did what he did. Are you feeling Doc Rivers? Is it over yet? I mean, it's a recency bias, some folks would say, Vinnie, but Joel Embiid straight balled out the other night. So he feels like, hey, it's finally his year to get the MVP.
Well, Doc Rivers had some 3-1 leads, and he probably thought them series was over, and teams came back on him. So I don't know if I'd be trusting his words right about now. but
my vote came out with the fire.
it was kind of just sitting out there. I didn't mean anything by it.
I don't know. That was oof. You took a shot just now.
A straight shot.
I play a jerk on TV sometimes. I'm not one in real life, trust me. No, I think the momentum is carrying towards Joel Embiid. Like when you look at a game on national TV, 50 points against the Celtics, and they needed every last one of those buckets that he got them. You look over there at Nikola Jokic, his players slowed down. The national discussion honestly started on the topic of race and stat padding. It was almost the thing that sort of turned everything back into Joel Embiid's favor. Quietly, though, why have we forgotten about Giannis? I'm trying to figure out how the best player in the world, the best player in the world on the best team, how we've managed to forget about him. But if you're asking me if a lot of people are going to wind up voting for Joel Embiid, probably right.
Yeah, you talked about that in your article on Yahoo, and about Giannis saying, look, if me saying that I don't care, that would be a lie, because that means I'm not being competitive. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And so I completely understand the logic. And I do think that he needs to be still a part of this conversation, because he still is one of the best players, if not right now, the best player in the NBA. But I would have really have liked to see Joel Embiid play the Nuggets. And then that's the game he sat out. And so, I completely understand. What he did the other night is fantastic. And I'm not taking away from that night or anything else that he's done this year. But wouldn't you want to see him go up against the guy that he's supposed to be in the MVP conversation with? Why? I'm sorry. I'm side-eyeing that just a little bit.
No, I don't think you're wrong. And I think it's a natural question to ask. If you're going to put all this weight on one game, if you're going to put all this weight on this 50-point performance on national TV, then you can put the same amount of weight on a game that he didn't play against Nikola Jokic. And yeah, his Achilles was hurting and everything else, but you knew that man wanted his get back. He wanted his get back on his home floor at altitude in Denver and everything that goes along with that. He owed the game that. Even if you're not at your best and the staff is telling you not to play, there's certain things that are bigger than just one game. So if you're going to put the weight on the 50-point game, I have zero problem with a voter saying, you know what, even if you didn't go out there and compete, I have a huge problem with that. So no, I'm completely with you. Again, my vote is not settled yet. I will not be making my vote until Sunday. That's like putting your outfit out for a black tie event. Do y'all put y'all dresses out until y'all have to? Because I don't know about y'all. I'll wait to the last minute before I pick up my outfits.
You can do that when you don't know if you can fit if you know that you can fit your clothes, you can do that. I gotta make sure I can fit the clothes I'm wearing, friend.
It's a little different with women.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that all the way alone and let y'all have that discussion amongst yourselves.
Vinnie is a very smart man at that. And and talking about picking outfits and picking clothes, let's head out to Denver. So the other person that we haven't talked about a lot in this three-headed race for MVP, we know you said your vote's not in yet, but Nikola Jokic, right? We know he's coming back from the calf soreness. But people saying, hey, if it is a recency bias and we look at the last game that he's played, struggled somewhat, even though you could say, Vinnie, right, he's not 100%, but, you're struggling against a struggling team in Houston. Folks are saying that he's been canceled out. What say you, Vinnie? Is Nikola Jokic still a factor to get MVP?
Absolutely. I think anybody that uses recency bias in a 6-month schedule and they use one game or 2 games or a week as opposed to a body of work, they're completely idiotic and totally unfair, right? Like, I'm not a person that says Nikola Jokic is owed the MVP because of the advanced stats or because of some of the other stuff, but I'm also not a person that says, oh, you got to X him out because he had a bad game here or his team isn't playing well. If I'm the Nuggets, I'm far more concerned with how my team is looking going into the playoffs. You want to play your best basketball headed into the last couple of weeks of the season. This isn't like years past where you sort of drag toward the end of the season. Every game sort of matters, whether it's establishing rhythm or establishing your playoff seeding. So while, yes, Nikola Jokic's MVP candidacy is up there, the Denver Nuggets got to get their ish together and get it together quickly. I
do not envy you for having to make this type of decision. Because I can't imagine, what barometer you're going to use to try to pick. But good luck to you, my friend. That's that.
Black tux or blue tux. Either way, it's a tux, and I'm gonna look good in it. It ain't really that hard. Trust me.
Good point. And you can't go wrong with dark colors. All right, switching from the MVP race. The other big thing that basketball fans are talking about, Vinny, is the CBA, collective bargaining agreement, this new one that's put out there. We've been hearing these rumors all about it, and lots of folks are talking, all right? The Twitter streets are talking all about this. One of the things I think that's been most exciting for folks is just the league potentially allowing investments in U.S. gambling in cannabis. And this is something that's unprecedented, right? I mean, for the NBA, you think about the past of the NBA and some players who might have gotten in trouble with some things, but now all of a sudden it seems like they're embracing this new norm that we're living in. So Vinny, as someone that's covered basketball for a long time, what do you think about this, and how can this help propel the game of basketball?
Well, you're not going to say I covered the game for a long time like you're trying to say I'm old. First off, like, you got to back that up a couple of steps.
I'm giving you your credit, Vinny. I'm giving you your credit.
It's okay. Join the old people crew. It's okay, Vinny. It's fun here. Okay? It's fun.
He's a seasoned veteran.
Ain't nobody old. Ain't nobody. That makes me sound even older. Seasoned veteran. That's two words that says old. But no, I think the most important thing is, like, they stopped drug testing for marijuana. Like, that's a pretty huge thing. They stopped that right before the bubble in 2020, and they haven't gone back into that space. I think that's a huge shift, especially considering where the league was in the 80s, suspending players for drug violations. They suspended players for drug violations as recently as a couple of years ago. So it's good to see that shift. Now, as far as the shift, as far as gambling, investing in gambling, that's a bit more tricky on my part. Because remember, you ladies are very close to the D.C. area. And although it didn't happen in D.C., when a fan confronted Bradley Beal for reasons I have yet to understand why, confronted Bradley Beal about not reaching a parlay or whatever it was, like, you don't want the fans to feel like the players are influencing them, or are not necessarily being influenced, but fans can be heavily influenced by whatever person they see on their TV screen, especially when it comes to gambling. They don't need any extra gas, but they're going to get the extra gas. I have zero problem with the equity of players investing in investment funds that will wind up investing in teams. I have zero problem with investing into, like, the cannabis thing. I think the gambling is a little bit tricky, a little bit murkier. Not that they're going to walk it back, but I do think it's something that players have to be careful about and that the league has to be careful about. I know they want to embrace the spirit of gambling. The NFL thrives off of it. Baseball has thrived off of it. But you have to be very careful about the tacit relationship. You want to date gambling. You don't want to get in a relationship with gambling and wake up in the morning with it.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I'm going to be quite frank. I don't like it at all. I think that it's a very touchy subject where any wrong move, and it could be a very small, minuscule move, could be viewed as a big deal. So I think that's one
conflict
that they
of interest. It's a potential conflict. You would think it's a conflict of interest.
It's a complete conflict of interest. I don't like it. But nonetheless, that's something they'd agreed on. I do love the investment of WNBA, however. We talked about the college game, and eventually we would like to hope that those girls are going to move into the WNBA arenas. And so you want to see it be grown and built into what there's talent there. It's good basketball in WNBA. The problem is just something is missing. I don't know what it is. It's just something's missing. But I do feel like having NBA players invest in WNBA could potentially really be a good thing for the WNBA, and it'll allow them to grow and be, the arena that we think that they can be, similar to what we're seeing in terms of the rise of women's college basketball.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is, like, we may not like the college institutions as institutions, right? But there is something familiar with them. Like, LSU, Connecticut, Tennessee. There's a brand marriage that happens when you have a Caitlin Clark, when you had a Maya Moore, when you've had a Shamika Holdsclaw from back in the day, like when those two marriages happen where you don't know a life without the WNBA teams, and then you add players that you've seen grow from the college game to the pro game as a minor league feeder system into the major leagues, then it becomes more familiar. Then it becomes more part of your natural thought process of, oh, I'm going from watching quote unquote March Madness for the women to watching summer basketball in the WNBA. It takes time. And sometimes it takes a longer time than we want to remember. The NBA was on tape delay in the early 80s until Magic and Bird got there. But I do think that, like it or not, we like to see black versus white in our sports. And sometimes that brings about some really uncomfortable conversations, some really uncomfortable feelings, as we've seen in this whole Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark thing. But it brings a lot of eyeballs. It brings a lot of casual fans in. And you want to bring the casual fans who sometimes bring things that we don't necessarily like, but they also bring money.
That's the one thing that I think works from what we saw the other day. Yes, it became a lot of underlying racial issues with what happened, but it brought eyeballs. And honestly, what do they say? Bad press is better than no press at all. I mean, look, if that's what's going to get people watching, I honestly hope that she see him walk over some stuff. As far as I'm concerned, do whatever it is to do. But if it's going to get people to watch, then what's the issue? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's entertainment, and you want to get people to feel like that they're invested in the product through some way or another. I don't know about y'all, but whenever there was a black coach in the NFL, it could have been a bad black coach. I'm rooting for the black coach and the black quarterback. Why?
Because of various reasons.
Yeah,
right?
It's the Issa Rae. Everybody black.
Right. Herm Edwards was like the guy that I was like, man, I don't know if Herm is good or not. But you know what? He's coaching the Jets, and I maybe want the Jets to win, that sort of thing. So you can see it on all ends of the spectrum. People kind of want to see themselves in what their sports is. And it's not to say make it all one way or all the other way. But if people want to see themselves in that way, people want to see Caitlin Clark, styling on everybody. Absolutely. It's fun. It's entertaining. And you also can understand when other people feel slighted and feel like the attention is not, spread out exorbitantly, or equitably, that creates some competitive tension. There's nothing wrong with competitive tension, because it created a pretty cool Final Four weekend for the women in ways that we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Exactly right. And that's why we're still having this conversation on the competition that's happening. I mean, Angel Reese has probably been the top thing trending all week long, and don't see that dying down anytime soon. And Vinnie, you hit on it. This race wars that people like to make. This country was founded upon race. It's not going anywhere soon. We like the David versus Goliath. And I think what we saw there is, like you said, I mean, it really became a race battle, black versus white. You see this LSU team, you see the Iowa team. But at the end of the day, you guys hit the nail on the head. It brought eyeballs to the game, and now we're already excited about the future of women's college basketball, which makes me excited.
It's not necessarily black versus white. Hold on. It's not exactly black versus white, because Kim Mulkey is the coach of LSU, and she reminds me of Cruella de Vil on 101 Dalmatians, the animated version. Give me those puppies.
But then he brought up a really good point, Rita, right? And Kim Mulkey, because she has a very problematic background for a lot of folks, right? Essentially. Yes. But people kind of, I think, slid that to the back of their minds because they like Angel Reese, because they like these players on this LSU squad. But I mean, we look at Kim Mulkey, we can go back to the Brittany Griner situation. We can go back to the sexual assault allegations, right, at Baylor University, and her stance on that. And when you look at a coach in leadership, some people would say, hey, she might be a great basketball coach, but where's the leadership? When does she truly stand up for her black players who are black people in this country when they take off that uniform? So much there, and so much we can dive into. But really quickly, Vinnie, before we let you go, going quickly back to the NBA and eyeballs, load management, we know, has been a big question in the NBA. And this new CBA, I think, tries to kind of at least touch on that as we look at player awards. So we're hearing that players must now play in at least 65 games, right, to be eligible for major individual awards, including all NBA. Quickly, Vinnie, did you like this or not? I mean, do you feel like it's the right step that needs to be taken to kind of somewhat address what we've seen fans complaining about as they want to see their favorite players play?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a cut and dry thing. I think it'll be a case-by-case basis. I wonder if it will somehow go to arbitration if players are voted on it. I don't think it's necessarily either you play 65 games or you're not eligible at all. I think there's a little more legalese, a little more gray area. But I do agree that because there seems to be a perception of the problem has to be addressed in black and white. And I do like the fact that they at least attempted to, even if not perfect, they at least tried to. And I can applaud them for that, at least in the meantime, before a problem comes up. Because there's going to be a problem that comes up when your favorite player or your guy plays 64 games and he should be MVP or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something's going to come up and we're going to have to work around that.
Before we let you go, Andrew Wiggins makes his return. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, I think that this makes the Warriors clearly a better team with him being there. But, you know, with all of the rumors circling around about what his absence was for and things, how good is it to see him coming back to the NBA?
Man, people are so foul. like we couldn't take we can't take a player's word. We can't take a player's word or a team's word if it was acceptable for the team, if it was acceptable for the players in that locker room. Believe you me, if the players felt like the reason was not suitable, they would have found out to get some way to get it out and to let the media know. But because they supported him, the team supported him. Remember, the team is paying him over $100 million and has paid him over, in an exorbitant amount. They could have felt like, hey, we need a return on our investment. We're in this battle to try to get back-to-back championships, and they've supported them. So sometimes the TMZ part of us, we want to sort of get to the meat of everything. We want to sort of, we want to get to the tea, and sometimes there's no tea. Sometimes we should just shut the hell up.
I don't know how I could say that better, because it's none of our business at the end of the day. What happens is none of our business. And so if whatever he's going through, we should just really just be concerned that he's okay from an emotional, mental standpoint and nothing else really. I am not sure how we got to that point, but, this is what we do in today's world. But ultimately, I do think that, the Warriors clearly are happy to have him back because they're in a race in terms of seeding at this point. Are the Lakers only a half game back? Am I tripping?
Yeah.
They're on their heels.
Half game back with 3 games left. The Lakers play the Clippers tonight, and probably the biggest game in the history of that rivalry. That's not a rivalry. So yeah, we're gonna. I'm gonna be staying up. I'm gonna be staying up late to watch that nonsense tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Vinnie. We so appreciated having you, your NBA insight. We're excited to have you back in the future. Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, appreciate y'all. Y'all doing great work today.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.